Climbers, the market share of major label artists is gradually shrinking over the years since social media decentralized marketing and streaming decentralized distribution. Currently, indie artists are responsible for a whopping 30 to 35% of all streams on Spotify and growing. And now Spotify is changing the payouts. What does this mean to you?
Dun, dun,
Welcome to the
dun.
climb! This is a show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you create leverage in the new music business. These are the new rules. We're going to teach you how to play the new game. That's why we called it The Climb, C.L.I.M.B, creating leverage in the music business. That's a backstrom from my good friend and co-host, Mr. Brent Baxter, who's an award-winning hit songwriter with cuts by Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Lady A, Joe Nichols, and more. Got top 10s in Australia, got top 10s on Texas radio, got number ones in Southern Gospel. The man is nationwide and multi-genre genius. And what I really love about him, he's got a big heart because he wants to help you, the songwriter, become professional by revealing how you write like a pro, do business like a pro, and then on the regular, he is going to get you in touch with the pros so you can then create a relationship and get on your way to climbing up that ladder. You can find Brent very easily at songwritingpro.com.
And I would like to introduce you to my co-host, Johnny Dwinell. Johnny owns Daredevil Production. They're breaking artists digitally by identifying new fans through data. Yeah, it's complicated, but thankfully Johnny is smart. If you're an artist looking to increase your streams, blow up your video views, sell more live show tickets, and get discovered by new fans, TV, and music industry pros, then Daredevil Production can help. Daredevil has worked with multi-platinum artists like Colin Ray, Tracy Lawrence, Ty Herndon, and Andy Griggs, just to name a few. You can find Johnny at daredevilproduction.com. That is production singular, no S, and there's no S because there is no other Johnny D.
We got a horrible, scathing, brutal review.
Yeah, we did. We did.
It was actually kind of hysterical.
So it was about how we talk too much, and so I don't know if I want to talk about it or
on
not
a podcast. Yeah, you son of a bitch.
So anyway, thanks for listening. If you're still listening.
Yeah. Well, you got to read the review.
Oh man, I got to find it then. I got to find it.
Real quick.
I thought maybe I got to find it. Ren, edit out the dead space.
Yeah, if you don't have haters, guys, you're not doing it right. And this isn't even really, maybe I wouldn't consider it as a hater, right? Like, because it wasn't like just all horrific.
Well, it got up to mid. Okay, anyway, 3 out of 5 stars. 30 minutes of ads, small talk, self-promotion, Facebook group reviewing, followed by 20 minutes of solid but not mind-blowing advice. Frowny face.
It's a very mediocre review.
So, sorry. Yeah, there we go. Well, let's hope it wasn't actually 30 minutes of that other stuff. But yeah. I know we have gone long sometimes. But anyway, that kind of hits me where I live because as a songwriter, I'm trying to get everything down to 3 minutes. So the longer our episodes go, the more fidgety I get. I'll be honest about it. But anyway, we're trying to bring you good stuff.
Yeah, and I think, I think if we go back and we look at the numbers on some of the ones that run longer, like they're going to compete with the ones that run shorter. So it's like we only run longer if we got some more to say, and I feel like people want to hear that. And so my response to Brent, by the way, on this one, he sent me the screenshot of this review, was I took a screenshot of my I have an iPhone, so I use the iPhone podcast app that comes on iPhone, and there's a button like right by the play button. I don't know if you guys know, there's a button right by the play button. It's really cool. It's like it's a forward circle arrow with a 30-second jump. You could jump ahead.
Yes.
So if you can't stand the Facebook reviews and you don't like the crap that we're hemming and hawing about in the first 10 minutes of the show, just skip past it. I do that on a bunch of podcasts that I listen to, and there's a bunch that I don't do that on because I like what they have to say. So
right.
I know there's a couple people I'm thinking, shout out to like Paul DeMarco right now, who's like all weirded out every time he hears our voice because he always listens to it like at like 1.5 speed or something.
Yes.
He listens to it faster, which changes the timbre of our
So,
voice, of our
so
voices. So
he's never had an episode over an hour of The
yeah,
Climb.
yeah, yeah. So it's just like, man, like that's crazy. And all the, hey, God bless us. We have commercials. I'm not apologizing for that. Like we finally found out
Yeah.
how to get paid, with
For this part, yes. This helps to keep going. But yes,
God's
we
sake.
will
Yeah.
we'll always try to keep it all killer, no filler. So all
Yeah.
killer,
So
no
anyway,
filler.
what we're gonna do is get into this new Spotify payout thing.
Yes.
There are wild positions on this. Shout out to like a lot of people sent me this information like as soon as it dropped, and
Mm-hmm.
the first two to do it, I can't remember who was first or second, so I'm going to shout them out both. Was Sonny Joe Graham, longtime climber, and
Mm-hmm.
the Saint who does our our graphics work. We're
The
so
patron
grateful
saint
for him.
of
We love
climb
you, Sonny
graphics.
Joe. I love you. You don't know how I feel. And then Randy Barber was like, dude, look at this.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, this would be a great podcast. So, I went in and dug down on it, and some people are like, oh, this is going to be better for the artists. And some people are like, oh, this sucks. Like, this is stealing. This is, once again, Spotify crushing
Mm-hmm.
the blah, blah, blah. So we're going to unpack this. But quick, let's get into some, uh, take care of a little business, man. Join the
Yes.
Climb community on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/the Climb community. And you want to ask to be let in because you have to. We let everybody in unless you look like a hooker or a robot or a
Mm-hmm.
spam artist. And then come in and participate. Come in and be a part of it, man. We put posts up every week that you can comment on those posts and tell us about your new music and have a boatload of people support you and comment about any wins that you've had in this past week and have a boatload of people comment and support you. And in that post, you can comment about your gigs, but keep it out of the main feed. The only thing for the
Mm-hmm.
main feed is stuff that would be universally important to everybody in the community. And we're not going to judge you on like relevance or importance of that content. We're only going to judge you if you're like putting your crap in the feed. Like, don't do that. I put my crap in the in the Wednesday win section. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can put your crap there too.
That's right. It's like the milk. Keep it in the fridge. It's all good
So
if it's in the
what are some
fridge.
wins? Let's get through those and we'll
All
get
right.
on.
Yes, some
I
wins
don't feel
today.
rushed by this guy now. I feel rushed by this damn
It's all right. It's all right. We just don't need
friggin'
meander, but we're good. All right. So every Wednesday we have the New Heights post, which is where we encourage you to celebrate your wins. It is a great place to meet other people in the community, get to comment on their stuff, show up in a positive way, and also do a little humble brag because we're asking for it. You're not bragging, you're answering a question. So climber Jacob Reel says, somehow I've hit nearly 10,000 monthly listeners on Spotify after releasing a 4-song EP. Probably not that many to some, but it feels like a little victory. Hopefully when it falls, it won't hurt too bad. LOL. So Jacob, congratulations on the 10K monthly listeners. That's awesome. Sonny Joe pipes in with, that is a huge victory. Celebrate. See,
yes,
we're
it is.
supportive in the Climb community. So good job, Jacob. Let's see here. Also, we have climber Les Downs said, last night my very first release went live. It's a collection of some jazzy Christmas classics. This is something I've always wanted to do and proud to have finally made myself do it. Hope you take the time to check it out. And Les includes a link. It's called Jazzy Kind of Christmas Live. So there's a link to Spotify. And so let's help Les get over 1,000 downloads this year. But anyway, which we'll get into tonight. But anyway, thanks to all you for posting and keep on climbing.
There you go. Yeah. Tell a friend about it, guys. Like make sure you follow us on whatever podcast platform you listen to us on. Check us out on YouTube. If you want to see our ugly mugs, you can go check that out.
Mm-hmm.
And tell a friend about it. That's really the most important thing. I mean, it's really word of mouth, right? Like if you guys, there's been a long time. I met another climber at the local the other day, and it was fun because I can't remember. Somehow I ended up like D. Vincent Williams was there. We were all having a conversation, but Janelle ended up having a conversation with her.
Of course.
And so all of a sudden she's talking and she's just like, they're getting to some conversation. And ours, I just moved here, blah, blah, blah. And Joe's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. My fiance, blah, blah. And all of a sudden she's like, wait, you're Johnny's Janelle? She's like, I'm a climber. I listen to the Climb. I was like, oh
Uh,
my god, it's so cool,
that's funny. You're Johnny's
So I mean,
Janelle.
the people are listening, man, and tell them why you're listening. Maybe we can help them too.
That's right.
So, all right,
So
let's
we
get
got
into
some
this.
drama with Spotify going on. Spotify has changed some rules that are going to affect songwriters and artists. And let's dig in. Let's go.
Yeah. So
I don't know how I feel about this yet, Johnny. Tell
I
me how I
know. Well,
feel.
I'm going to try my best to listen. I'm going to give my opinion on
Mhm.
this, and in what I think about this, and there are people that I highly respect. Tony Van Veen being one of them, the CEO at Discmakers, opposite side of the table on this issue from me.
Mhm.
Okay, so there's a lot of lot of emotion about this out there, and
Mhm.
so I think it's important. I think a lot of people are pissed off and they're not sure what to feel. Some people too mad, some people too happy.
All right.
uh, but the first thing I want to point out is this: that by the way, I don't know if you caught that in my cold open, but indie music, indie streams represent 30 to 35% of all the total streams on Spotify right now.
Hmm. That's a lot.
That's insane. That is insane. Okay. And it's growing. And the major labels market share, as determined by streams, shrinking
Mhm.
and continues to shrink. So, this reinforces a lot of other podcast episodes we've had, Brent, where we're talking about this. The pie's getting bigger, but you have to be a student of the game, right? You have
Yeah.
to play. You know what? You have to be professional.
There we go.
You have to be professional. You know what I mean? That's all there is to it. You're not going to keep any job anywhere if you're unprofessional, right? It doesn't, take some kind of crazy college education to become a construction worker. But
Mhm.
if you don't swing a hammer and show up to work and actually produce, you're not going to keep that job for too long, are you?
That's right.
It's not going to happen. So here's what happened. Spotify changed the rules on the payout policy. I'm going to list them and then we're going to break them down. Really, there's one that's got everybody just out of their minds on, and that's the one we're
Mhm.
really going to focus on. But at the top of the show, here are the three rules. Any song that doesn't generate at least 1,000 streams per year
Mhm.
will not be paid royalties. Okay, those royalties will be put into a different account, and they're paid out then via what they are calling an artist centric distribution method, right? Which sounds really cool, right? Everybody's like, oh, that's just like a wolf in sheep's or clothing kind of a thing.
Mhm.
It just means that they're going to divide it up amongst the most popular artists or the artists with the most streams that year. So the professional artists that get the most streams are going to be paid more per stream
Mhm.
than the artists who didn't get 1,000 streams on that song.
Yeah.
Um, that's the first one. That's the biggie. Okay. We're going
Mhm.
to really dive into that. Number two, distributors that are caught being fraudulent are going to be penalized. There has been no articulation. Well, first of all, what does fraudulent mean? If the streaming service determines that the distributor is gauging in something like stream farms or, something that's disingenuous, then those, those streaming services are going to be, or I'm sorry, those distributors are going to be put on notice, right?
Mhm.
Or there's something's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be a fine, a penalty. They haven't articulated what the punishment's going to be, but they're now saying like this is going to happen. Okay,
Okay.
some people are arguing that this is the slippery slope to um, eliminating the DIYs, right? Eliminating TuneCore, CD Baby, DistroKid, so that just the major label distribution companies can dominate. Um,
Hmm. I don't know why
I don't.
Spotify would be into that, considering that's 30% of their streams or
Yeah, I
indies.
think it's a little too big and too growing for them to worry about that. Especially, at some point here, this may be the catalyst for the major labels pulling out and saying we're going to do our own streaming.
Yeah.
Who knows? Um, I'm not sure, but the third thing is, and I totally agree with this 1,000%. Is there are like one of the biggest money makers on Spotify, y'all, is a company that they make $45 million a year because they own a boatload of traffic. And what do they do with the traffic? It's all like sleep sounds. Okay, so white noise, pink noise, green
Mhm.
noise. Sometimes it's rain hitting a tin roof, the sound of that, or a thunderstorm recording, waves slapping up on the shore. These kind of things that people have when they sleep. I love this stuff. I mean, we have this. Janelle actually has a friggin' hair dryer that just friggin' fire hazard that
Right.
goes all night long. I'm not going to talk about that. But when Janelle's gone with the hair dryer, I listen to like one of these companies, right?
Yeah.
But what they're doing is they're gaming the system essentially, and they are, instead of like an 8 hour or 10 hours straight of like listening to this, you get that. That's the result. You get that 10 hours straight, but they have like broken up into 31-second segments, so they're getting paid for a
Every
master
30 seconds.
copy for every 31 seconds. And so they're going
Yeah.
to change that and raise that bar higher to make a payable stream, because that particular content is always consumed in a very specific manner.
Yeah.
And so them getting that kind of money for that is a different deal. It's not fair, and they're going to change that. I like that. Okay,
Okay.
so those are the three rules. All right. So let's get into the heat here. Any
Yeah.
song that doesn't generate at least 1,000 streams per year will not be paid royalties. Those royalties are redistributed via an artist-centric monetary distribution. This is, what this is, guys. If you're
It's the
mildly
rich
professional,
get richer.
yeah.
The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Well, because it's going to the artists that are already making the most off of it. So I'm sure that is an argument against it, right? Take it from the
Yeah,
little
it
guy,
is, but
give it to
it's a
the big
crappy
guy.
argument against it. It's a crappy argument against it. Okay,
How is that a
because
crappy argument?
because the well, okay, let's do it this way.
Okay.
Let's think about it in terms of blanket fees at a PRO.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they're collected, and then all those blanket fees are distributed, amongst a very very small group of the biggest artists that year.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that a fair way to describe
It
that?
goes into a fund, and there's seems to always be a little wiggle room in there.
Okay. So, so that is, and you schooled me on this. I
Mm.
thought that reporting radio stations had to report the songs so that the PRO would pay directly on the songs. But you're saying that all the P1 radio stations pay blanket fees,
Yes.
and so do the um, clubs and any
Mm-hmm.
jukeboxes and any wherever you hear music stations. Man, they all pay to run that music. Okay. And the performance rights organizations collect that money, they put it into a general fund, and then they distribute it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But here, that to me, that's more of a rich get richer and the poor get poorer thing. That's more of like a kind of cronyism sort of thing.
Mm.
But, it's 1,000 streams, man. You know, 1,000
Yeah.
streams. Like Tony Van Veen's thing. Again, I totally respect Tony Van Veen. We're trying to get him on the podcast. I love him. Um, his point, which is well taken, is that this is just stealing. This is not black box money that they can't distribute because they don't know where it's supposed to go to. These are people that they know who should get paid, but they're not going
Mm-hmm.
to pay it because you didn't get enough traffic that year on that
Yeah.
song. And so they're going to put it into a fund and redistribute it. So stealing would suggest that it's like somehow there's a victim involved, right? Like that somebody, unbeknownst to them, with no control over the situation, right? Like, they held me up at gunpoint and took my wallet.
Yeah.
That's stealing. Okay. But if you get 1,001 streams, they're not going to take it.
Yeah.
So,
To, to me, it looks like maybe it's a play to clean out the, what you call the world's refrigerator. Yeah, everyone
Yeah.
want to put their art up on the world's refrigerator. Going, yeah, we're just not going to support that. We're not paying for that. We're not going to, I guess, go through the because I'm sure it's I don't know if it saves them administrative work, because either way it's got to be administered. It's probably more
Well,
administrative work.
you know what? We're about to get into that. So,
Okay.
because I'm gonna bring some different light to this thing so you guys understand what's going on. Okay.
Okay.
But listen, the for a moment, the point that you were on, Brent, about like, okay, maybe this is going to be the thing that just gets all of the noise, right, or a lot of the noise off the radar screen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I can't get paid, I'm not going to do it. But that's not the case. Okay, I'm going to prove that later on the show here. Okay.
All right.
So let's just first talk about you just jumped right into it. Gateway fees, like the administration of the payouts. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So 1,000 streams. Let's just deal with like the master. Let's just deal with the master recording of this. Let's just not assume like it'd be a little bit more money if you wrote the song. But let's just say you own the master, right? Like
Yeah, so you didn't write it, but you own the master.
right. So that the payout on that is 0.00032 cents per stream. So 1,000 streams, 32 cents.
Okay.
Okay, 1,000 streams. So if you've done any e-commerce at all, okay, and I would hope that a lot of climbers have a store on their friggin' website, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But if you've done any e-commerce at all, you're going to get this. If you haven't done e-commerce, this is probably going to fall on deaf ears. You might not understand this, but this is real, and this is the reality. Brent, you're going to back me up 100% on this because you've done plenty of e-commerce. When you accept a payment via a credit card or a digital transaction via like PayPal, from distributors, like if you've got something on Shopify, Daredevil, it's not a distributor, but we use QuickBooks, which is a software that allows me to do customer service, and I can run credit cards through that. That's a payment gateway. I'm able to get paid through an invoice on QuickBooks. And or if you accept payment on your website store as an artist, you might have a payment gateway like Stripe or Square or PayPal or WooCommerce or something like that, or Gumroad. There is a finance fee, right? It's a percentage of the overall transaction. QuickBooks is 3.5% if the card is not present, which is the way it always is because it's an invoice, right? So I think you get a better rate on a point of sale because there's less room for fraudulent transactions when the person's actually holding the card. So like a point of sale, when somebody's swiping a card, let's say like if you're swiping the card at a, on your merch booth, by the way, side note, good point to do it that way as opposed to PayPal or some other thing, because you're going to make more money per transaction if you make them physically swipe the card than you would if you're doing PayPal or if they're going to use Apple Pay or something like that, right? So it's 3.5%, right? And Brent, I know Gumroad's probably right in there, right? Probably right at that?
Probably so, yeah. I don't use them as much, but they still have some stuff.
Okay, who do you mainly use now?
I mainly use Stripe. For like all of my events and stuff through Songwriting Pro, there's some legacy subscriptions through Gumroad, but that's the only thing I use that for is legacy subscriptions. All the new stuff goes through Stripe. But people often have an option of doing PayPal if they don't want to do credit card, they can do PayPal.
So I think 3.5% is pretty much like the industry standard out there for for a transaction that doesn't involve a physical card. Okay. But that's not the only fee, is it, Brent?
No, I'm surely not. No.
There's one other fee.
Are we talking like taxes or something?
I'm talking, what's that?
Are we talking like taxes or something?
No.
I don't know. What is it?
It's a transaction fee.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a base. And
every time that you run a card, for whatever, there's 2 fees that happen from whoever you're using, Stripe, Square, PayPal, whatever. It's a percentage of the sale plus a transaction fee, which is usually 30 cents.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So you're going to have 10 transactions. It's going to be $3 in transaction fees plus 3.5% of the total amount of transactions, which could be $1 million or 20. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it just depends on how big those transactions are, right? But bottom line, flat rate, 30 cents per transaction. So if you think that if we talked about that master recording on
Mhm.
Spotify for 1,000 streams, 32 cents is the
Well,
payout.
okay. I'm I'm gonna question that. So, Billboard came out with the Spotify payout calendar
Mm-hmm.
that said, it's BMI, I think, or in Billboard anyway. So you put in your number of streams, and it tells you Spotify pays for the sound recording, the mechanical, and the performance, and then also does the same for Apple Pay. Which, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
Apple Pay is like just about double what Spotify pays out. By the way. But
Right.
I put it in there 1,000 streams, and it says sound recording is $3.70, and then you have mechanical and performance would be the
For
publishing on top
Apple?
of that. No, for Spotify, it says 1,000 streams is $3.70 for the sound recording, which is the master.
Interesting. Okay.
So throw
Well,
you a
I'm trying to
curveball
figure out
there,
how
but
that is.
I figure, yeah, because I know master gets paid differently. Like it's be like $1.10 for mechanical and performance combined, which is the songwriter side, the publishing side of it. So on 1,000 streams, if you are a solo writer, you get like $1.10 on 1,000 streams. But
Okay.
if you also own the sound recording, that it says right now it'd be additional $3.70. So $3.70. Not
Okay.
not going
Well,
to change your life or get you coffee.
it's not a lot of money. It's not going to change your life. That's right.
Right.
But how many times have you, gosh, come across? I mean, I even think the payouts on our podcast platform that we're on, right? Like you don't get paid until it reaches a certain amount of money. Usually it's like
Mhm.
$25, right?
Yeah, they're
Uh,
publishers and stuff that like the admin companies that say, hey, or even publishing companies for their own writers are like, we're not paying you if it's under $100. I think
yeah,
PROs have done that before. Even maybe I'm not sure
yeah.
if they do that anymore, but that's pretty common to go. Listen, well, how much are stamps these days? We're not sticking a 60-cent
Well, and so
stamp
yeah,
on a
that's the point
20-cent
though, right?
payment.
Like whether it's
Yeah,
a check or a digital payment, there's a fee, there's administration fees
Mhm.
involved, and you have to pay somebody to do it, right?
Right.
And so when you're talking about like all that kind of crap, man, it costs money to do that. And so they're like, look, we're not going to, pay to administer this until we're not losing money, right?
Yeah. So I bet they're saving a buttload on those 30-cent
Oh my
transaction
God.
fees. Like
Yes.
how
And
many
so,
are getting less than 1,000? How many songs? So each song, Uncle Jimmy that put out 10 songs last year that all have 10 streams each. What's $3 to pay him is nothing to send him a statement that says you really made less than a penny. Is that
yeah.
how that
I
works?
mean, so okay. So now so now we kind of broken it down transaction by transaction in ways that I'm sure everybody listening to the podcast has dealt with before, right? Like I can't get paid from my PRO, or I can't get paid from this or from that digitally until it reaches a certain amount of money, and then I get paid. You know,
Yeah.
because there's an admin cost to it, right?
Yeah.
So this makes sense to me. Now, I want to just hip everybody. You've already started seeing headlines about that are going to be spun to talk about like how much artists are getting screwed, right? Like
Mhm.
the huge amounts of money that will be quote unquote taken from smaller artists. This will raise the hair on your head. This is going to cause some emotion from you. You're going to be upset.
Mhm.
Spotify is estimating that in year one, the first year they implement this, it's going to be $40 million in royalties that will be taken from smaller artists and redistributed to the bigger artists.
Wow.
And in 5 years, they said that'll be $1 billion.
So
So
the thing is, there's a lot of artists out there putting out a lot of songs that nobody's listening to.
exactly. So this would refute that this, not getting paid the 32 cents or $3.70 per thousand streams is going to be some kind of deterrent from people wanting to get the dopamine hit of putting their finger painting up on the world's refrigerator.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, I agree with that. I don't think people are doing it. I mean, some may have delusions of, yeah, I'm going to go make a bunch of money, but they're probably putting one song on there and expecting that to do it. It's not people that are putting out a bunch of songs. That's probably more the vanity, because we're talking like, it looks like at most like $3.70 per year.
Yeah, per
Not even per
year.
payout, like
No, per
per
year.
year for
And
the
so this is
song.
the
Yeah.
thing. So when you see this, guys, I mean, you have to remember that whether it's $40 million or $1 billion, it's micropayments.
Mm-hmm.
Micropayments, right? They're not taking any more than, $3.70 from a smaller artist to give to the bigger artist. Okay. But it's still taking food off your table, right? It's taking money
Yeah.
from you. So I get that. But Brent, you remember when we had 2 shows about this about a year apart. We talked about the Spotify reports that came out in 2021 and 2022.
Mm-hmm. About the number of people that are making more than $50K a year, number of artists that are making more than $50K a year on Spotify.
Right. That figured out how to make at least $50,000 on Spotify. So year 1, it was 13,400. And when we did the math, and I came in, like I've seen a couple other places now where I'm pretty confident my math is like pretty freaking good on that. But even if I'm off by a couple thousand, it's like 8,400 indie artists without a label who are never going to get on the radio, figured out how to make $50,000 on Spotify. God bless them.
Yeah.
Right? Everything's been decentralized. You don't need permission. Okay. Now, that was the first year. Second year, that number went up to 16,500. So we added 3,100 artists in 12 months' time to the total that are making at least $50,000 in just streaming money just from Spotify. 3,100 guys. We did not sign 30. Those are not major label artists. Okay, those are all indie, all of them. So what was compelling though is that second year Spotify came out with the criteria, because there was people whining about like, oh my God, only 13,400 artists out of 8 million. Like that's terrible. That's 0.002% or whatever of the artists getting paid. And this is not fair. And this just, once again, Spotify crushing the backs of artists to blah, blah, blah. Right.
Yeah.
And I thought that's why I did the breakdown to begin with, because I thought, man, that's a horrible spin. That seems to imply that every single artist who uploads music to Spotify deserves to be paid.
Mm-hmm.
And that they're good. Right?
Right.
Now,
yeah.
This is a fact about the creative arts, whether it's painters or poets or authors or songwriters or music artists or performance artists. Brent, I don't care what cross section you take. If you put 1 million songwriters together, 99% of them are going to suck.
Yeah.
And this is the reality when you're dealing with art, like on a mass scale, guys. The imperfect understanding that's been perpetuated is that art is subjective. Art is not subjective. Art can be objective. It can be objectively horrible. Okay. It's when it becomes competitive in whatever space that you're operating in, then it becomes subjective. Right? Like I can recognize. Are you
an Eddie Van Halen or a Jimi Hendrix?
Yeah, exactly. Right? Or, Britney Spears. Man, I'm not a fan of that stuff really, but it's well done, like it's really well done, but subjectively, not on my playlist, you know, but well done. So this is what I want to talk about here. Now let's break down some numbers, because this is crazy. Okay. So we talked about 8 million artists on Spotify. And what Spotify did was they created a criteria to kind of clap back at the people talking about how few artists were getting paid
Mm-hmm.
out of 8 million to they developed a criteria to determine who is a professional artist or a professionally aspiring artist, right?
Yes.
And if you remember, the first piece of criteria was you had to have uploaded at least 10 songs to Spotify.
Yeah.
Okay. Making enough for one album,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you have to have at least one album or 10 total songs to Spotify. And that first piece of criteria took the number from 8 million. It eliminated 5.6 million artists, or
Wow.
70% of the
Mm-hmm.
artists on Spotify haven't even uploaded a grand total of 10 songs. Okay. So, guaranteed those 5.6 million artists, the vast majority of them have less than 1,000 streams per song.
Right. I would imagine so.
Okay. Out of the 2.4 million artists that are left from the first piece of criteria, they've uploaded at least 10 songs, enough
Mm-hmm.
to make one album on Spotify. Out of that, only the next piece of criteria was you had to have at least 10,000 monthly listeners on their Spotify accounts.
Mm-hmm.
That dropped the number from 2.4 million to 160,000.
Wow. Big drop.
Okay. So, and I guarantee you that most of the artists with less than 10,000 monthly listeners, have most of their songs less than 1,000 streams.
Mm-hmm.
Because why? One of two reasons. Either the music sucks, they're not competitive,
Mm-hmm.
right? The sound recordings are bad, or the songs are bad, there's no vibe, whatever, or they're not marketing or promoting.
Yeah.
95% of the job requirement of being an artist is marketing and promotion.
And I would also say sometimes there are others, because I dig in the the bluegrass and the Southern gospel world. Those fan bases just aren't on like Spotify as much. Like I can look up artists that I've had hits with on the charts on Southern gospel, and they're not. Many of them are getting 10,000 monthly streams on, or however monthly listeners on Spotify, because they do radio
Which
and
means
they do
that
satellite. It's like the customer base. Now that's going to be a very, very small section of people that are professionals that are not getting those Spotify numbers. But that's probably
if
just
they are professional, where are
Mhm.
they getting paid from? It's just not Spotify.
Yeah, they're getting paid other sources. Is they do live
Yes.
shows, they do radio, they are out there, and that's a very, very small part of what this crew would be. I just want to give them a shout out. There are a few out there, but yeah, they're not, and their listenership tends to be older and not,
Not
savvy.
on Spotify.
It's not on
Yeah,
Spotify.
they're listening to records or cassettes or just going to see them live.
Yeah,
Or
it's a
CDs.
different thing.
Great. But they're, again, so the money that they're going to lose from this on the songs that have less than 10,000 is going to be negligible, right?
Yeah,
It's going to be
it's
negligible.
not what they're banking on.
It's not what they're banking on. That's right. So it's not like they're getting screwed over. Okay.
Mhm.
But so let's put all the numbers together here. Out of 8 million artists, 7,840,000 artists, or 98%, either are not competitive or
Mhm.
don't market or promote enough to garner 100,000 streams per song in a year's time.
Yeah.
So that's why the numbers are so big. That's why 40 million to $1 billion, right? It seems like a lot of money, but this is what we're talking about being monetized, okay? So, again, with the argument that Tony Van Veen it's not just him. Like there's a lot of people saying this is simply stealing, okay? I get
Mhm.
this thought process. I get this angle on it, except again, stealing would suggest that the artist is powerless to stop it,
Yeah.
right? And if you can manage to get 1,000 streams, you will get paid. You have absolute control over this. Nobody's preventing you
Mhm.
from figuring out how to get to 1,000 streams per song in a year's time.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it as going, okay, are they being upfront with the rules? And it will
Yep.
will it apply evenly? If
Yeah.
Jay-Z puts out a song and it gets 999 downloads, but that last download ain't one, then is he going to get paid on that song? I just
Right.
backed myself right into that pun. Didn't even mean to from the beginning,
It
but
was just brilliant from the
it was
get-go.
just like, wait a second. Anyway, so is he going to get paid? You
Yeah.
know, if that's
No, I
even the
think
same
that's
as my Uncle Joe who puts out a song and it gets okay, then at least upfront, and as an artist, you can go, do I want to be on that platform? Is that worth it? Or do I want to just be on these different platforms? Whatever.
right. So now I'm going to break it down a little further here, okay?
It's like
So
walking into a bar and there's a cover charge. That's theft. Well, don't walk in the bar as long as we're but if it
yeah,
charges your card by RFID the minute you walk in and you don't even know that you got charged that till you left, what?
different
Then
thing.
that's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
cool.
different
Different
deal.
thing.
That's right. So no matter how you shake this, no matter how you feel about this, each artist has a very, very, very low bar to jump over to avoid
Mhm.
this rape and pillaging. Okay. But guys, we're talking about getting paid for your work, right?
Mhm.
Which means, and Brent, we've mentioned this before, even if it's 1 penny,
Mhm.
if you get paid 1 penny for a performance, at the moment that you got paid that penny, you now became professional
Yeah.
because you're getting paid to do the job. That's the definition of professional.
Mhm.
Okay. So is it stealing or is it a bar that's being set to financially participate on a professional platform?
Spotify is basically saying, "We'll pay you to do the job. Your job is to get 1,001 streams
Yeah,
per
like
song per
I
year,
mean,
right?"
how much effort does it take in marketing? Or yeah, I guarantee you, Brent, like there are artists that have done zero marketing and zero work who have managed to get more than 1,000 streams. So it's like the artists who put friggin', you know, a minute amount of energy and time and creative energy and a little bit of money into marketing their product, it's not hard to get past 1,000.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like most of our listeners, unless they're just starting and they're still in the exploratory phase, are already past this and go, "Oh, whew,
Yeah,
that's not me."
yeah.
And the way I look at it,
Which is why, it's if they're not saying that you're not getting paid for the first 1,000 streams.
mhm.
Keep that in mind,
Yeah,
okay?
that's
'Cause
important.
that's
Yeah.
important. That's another shell game, right? Like when I first started doing mortgages and I worked for AmeriQuest, they had their own software for pricing mortgages.
Mhm.
And so the way their software worked, like you wouldn't see, it would tell you what your revenue would be. And when you're brand new and you're trained by AmeriQuest and you don't know any better, you're like, wow, okay, I can make this money on a mortgage. That's great. I'm going to try to sell this. I'm going to try to do this. But then when AmeriQuest went under and I left and I went to be a mortgage broker with like I'm working with all these different banks, right, on a table fund like Deutsche Bank and Wells Fargo and Bank of America, blah, blah, blah. Uh, then I started realizing like the software at frickin' AmeriQuest, there was a house rake. They took the first point on the mortgage. So the mortgage officers
Mm.
didn't make a dime until they charged over a point
Ah,
on the mortgage, right? But you don't know that. That's that to your point, Brent. Like it's like walking in and they're taking your money and you're not aware of it, right?
yeah.
And so all of a sudden you're like, holy crap, this is ridiculous that you can make this much money on mortgages and we're getting screwed over at AmeriQuest, right?
Mhm.
So, but let's look at it this a different way. Um, Thinking of it like a professional platform, in the NFL, there's what's called a combine. This is where all the teams and the coaches get to look at athletes that are competing for a chance to be drafted and for a chance to play in the NFL. They're usually
Mhm.
fresh out of college there. They run drills and they're measured on their abilities to kick, to pass, to punt, to run, to stop, to tackle, etc. Right? And looking at it through this lens, it would be like saying, well, everyone should be able to play professional football.
Mhm.
That's a pretty high bar that you have to get onto that field,
Yeah.
right? It's an elite bar. So, unlike basketball, like professional basketball, which is far less physical than football,
Mm-hmm.
if you let an athlete, let's say with an insane amount of talent, to be a potential Hall of Famer on an NFL field right after high school, they'll be killed
Yeah.
instantly.
Yeah.
Killed. Why? Because they haven't physically developed enough, right? They're not ready.
Mm-hmm.
They like the 3 years after high school or 4 years after high school, 3 years if they get out early and they go to into the draft, or 4 years, they build up their bodies, their
Mm-hmm.
strength, their speed, their endurance, and their gamesmanship to compete. There's big story like Kevin Garnett and Kobe Bryant, who came out of high school in basketball and went right into the pros. And mind you, they still struggled their first year, okay, because it
Mm-hmm.
was such a big physical game. But I mean, you're talking like death sentence in the NFL, right? Like you will be
Right.
killed
Yeah.
because you're not physically big enough to withstand that kind of impact that's going to
Yeah.
happen on a play-by-play basis. Okay, so that's one way to look at it. Let's look at another way that maybe hits a little closer to home for you artists. Okay, you can't monetize on YouTube or Facebook unless, and hear me out, you have met and continue to maintain
Mm-hmm.
a certain amount of traffic that they are requiring, the criteria they require to consider you a professional creator to be worthy of being paid.
Yeah. You got to have
Okay.
like 1,000 subscribers or something like that. I was talking to someone
You
over
have
the
to have
holidays.
1,000 subscribers. That's the mark on subscribership. And
Mm-hmm.
then it's like, I think a certain amount of, they change it, but I think it's like 4,000 hours,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a month of traffic, of
Yeah.
watching your content. And if it falls, you can have like 20,000 subscribers, but if your monthly hourly quota falls below, you don't get paid.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're going to be considered a creator and you're going to use now, can anybody upload their stuff to YouTube?
Yes.
Absolutely. Right. Can you put your finger painting up on the world's refrigerator there? Absolutely. Okay. Why aren't people whining about that?
Well, it's funny. Speaking of, YouTube, and it doesn't matter how many videos you put on YouTube. If you don't meet those criteria, it doesn't matter, right? I
Yeah.
mean, we've started finally uploading video, all of our episodes to YouTube. Like we put hundreds of C.L.I.M.B
Yeah.
episodes on YouTube, but we have not promoted it. So guess what? If that's all you knew about it, you'd be like, these boys are doing a lot of work for nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we just haven't promoted it. We go through, you probably listen to this, not on YouTube, but if you're there, hi. And thank you, but probably not, right? At this point that
Yeah.
we're recording this, everyone's listening to audio. They're not doing the YouTube thing, which is fine, which, we do add stuff on there because guess what? We've reached threshold where we were valuable enough for a podcast network to invite us in and go, hey, you got some reach and audience. We got some
Mhm.
advertisers. Let's work together and make some money. And so we're doing that. But even though we have hundreds of episodes on YouTube, I'm not mad at that. You know why? I haven't done the job. Am I
Yeah.
mad that we don't have a ton of subscribers on YouTube? No. Why? I haven't done the work.
Exactly. And on that note, back to your point about some of the bluegrass artists and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Where do we get most of our traffic? It ain't even close to YouTube. It's mostly Apple and
Mhm.
Spotify and these other platforms where
Yeah.
we get our downloads from.
Yeah.
That's like whatever we get over there at YouTube is bonus just in terms of traffic. It's more exposure for us. And
Mhm.
maybe, who knows, maybe someday it all of a sudden it catches on, whatever. I don't know. But
Yeah.
it's us just trying to be distributed everywhere and provide a visual aspect to it. But that's the point. So, Facebook has the same kind of criteria.
Mhm.
I'm not certain about Instagram or about TikTok, but they all have, I don't like, I'm not certain about the specifics of it, but each of those platforms has criteria
Mhm.
that you have to meet in order to be paid.
Yeah.
Okay. And prior to that. Now, so there's a couple ways here. Like, that when I talked about like the house rake and I was talking about um, AmeriQuest and the mortgage company, like I didn't have a choice on that. They take the first point,
Yeah.
before I get paid, no matter what, right? When you're doing a digital transaction for a t-shirt on your website, that gateway is taking probably a 30-cent transaction charge, no matter how much you're charging for the product,
Mm-hmm.
and then a percentage of the sale, right? 3.5%. That happens all the time, guaranteed, no matter what. YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, you got to have a certain amount of followers and you have to have a certain amount of regular, consistent traffic in order to be paid for that traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the, if you fall below that, don't get paid. Right. And also, Spotify's not doing this, right? You guys see that. It's not like we're going to take all the revenue from the first 1,000 streams on
Right.
everybody. Or in the no. They're saying, look, we're just not going to pay you if you don't cross over the barrier of 1,000 streams. Get to 1,000 streams, get paid.
Yeah.
So
One way I
go
look at
ahead.
this as a professional songwriter is because, somebody might cover a song that I've written or whatever and fall below that threshold. Okay, I won't get paid on that either. Not happy about that. But thing is, though, I think that's going to be balanced out by the fact that the pay pool is going to increase dramatically, and
Yes.
I have a lot of songs in that pay pool, right? By
Yes.
other artists, by people like Mackenzie O'Brien, Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Zane and Donna King that are gonna so
Yes.
that's gonna beef up the people that are like serious about it and doing it. It's like, okay, well, I look at that, go, I ought to see a bump.
Yeah, I think you will. And that's my point, is that the artists who are professional, who are professionally aspiring, right? Because let's be honest, that the difference between an artist and not being an artist, my friends, is not 1,000 streams. Okay.
Right.
that is not, you're not going to pay for anything on that. You can't even buy literally a pack of gum,
Well,
$5,
you're not even
right?
getting back what you paid to join TuneCore or DistroKid or whatever, right? If there's a payment for that, you're
Exactly.
not even getting that back. You're still in the hole.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's a hobby. You're playing golf.
So yeah, it's a hobby. You know what I mean? And so, man, I mean, when we first started working with Josh Roy,
Mm-hmm.
his Spotify account was the kind of Spotify account that we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
He might have had a song, maybe one song. I think he had one release. I think maybe one of those songs maybe was over 1,000 streams. The rest of them weren't.
Yeah.
So he's not going to be paid for anything. Now we've gone to work, okay, on this EP, that the first EP that I co-produced, that we released and I helped him market. Now we got over 500,000 streams.
Yeah.
Okay, on 4 of the 5 songs. So we still have the last one to release coming up this week. So
Cool.
in the world of competing professional artists, if the market is a blue whale, right, the largest mammal on earth, 500,000 streams is a quarter of a Tic Tac.
Yeah.
It's nothing. It's not even close. I'm not going to get any attention on Josh Roy from industry people until we get well into the 7 figures.
Mm-hmm.
That's your bar.
Yeah.
That's your bar. So, thinking and complaining and fretting and spending 1 ounce of your precious time and energy worrying about this on 1,000 streams is a waste of your time.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you put that same amount of energy and time into just a modicum of either improving your art to make it competitive, right? Learning how to write a better song, learning how to make a better recording, or if you have competitive music, into marketing that music,
Mm-hmm.
it's not that hard to get over 1,000 streams, guys. It's just not.
Yeah.
Not that hard at all, So, if you can't get more than 1,000 streams, it's It's not even that you're not doing your job. You're not even showing up to work. You're not even showing up to work. You're like expecting to get paid as a construction worker without even showing up to the site.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, you can't pound one nail, one all day long,
Yeah.
So either you're not competitive with your music, or you're not competitive with your sound recordings and songwriting, or you're not marketing and promoting your music, which is, again, 95% of the job description. Artists seem to have a hard time getting this through their head and accepting this and embracing this. But 95% of your big, fat, stinky record deal that you want to get, all the money, the time, the effort, the resources, the infrastructure, it all goes to marketing. You're lucky to get 5% to make that album. So it's not going to work. It's not, it just, you don't need anybody's permission, but you got to do the job.
Yeah.
And that's the job. And so if you're going to complain about social media and complain about how hard it is to make a living and blah, blah, but man, stop it. Like, you guys, this is, to your point, Brent, I think get into the realm of artists who are getting paid, who are considered professional by Spotify, and you're going to make more money per stream than you would before, because they're going to take the non-performers and put them all in a big pool and pay you more.
Yeah.
Artists are going to make more money. And, if it gets to a point where somehow it's revealed that out of that $1 billion in 5 years is being distributed only to major label artists, and at that point, 5 years from now, indie artists have 50% of the traffic, that's a different conversation we're going to have.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, that's it. So think about that, guys. That's all I got to say about that. But I just wanted to give you the breakdown on that. I wanted you to, know what's happening. And, when you start seeing the headlines that look really disgusting and gross, I want you to read between the lines and understand what's going on. Okay. Nobody's making a living putting out 1 million uploads of a song with less than 1,000 streams each.
Yeah.
It's just not happening. So,
Not happening.
Anyway, and if that was your plan as a business model, sorry, that's a crappy business model. So anyway, guys, that's it, man. If you want to learn more about the digital downloads, go to giftfromjohnny.com, JOHNNY, giftfromjohnny.com. Free download. Whoever owns the traffic rules the road. All right. That is the de facto credo. You should have that tattooed on your forehead. Okay. You own the traffic. You're not going to have any problems with 1,000 streams. And you can download it for free. Just tell me where to send it. Make sure you join the C.L.I.M.B community. Follow the podcast. Tell a friend about it. This podcast exists because we want you to win. So keep on climbing.
And we'll see you at the top.